massive heart attack.
But it was what she did in the 12 minutes before they got there.
My wife called 911, performed CPR.
We're going to do CPR, okay? You ready?
I woke up 8 days later in the hospital.
Often starting life-saving steps before the first responders even arrive.
You need to get her on her back. You need to do CPR.
The operator said he needed to perform CPR right now. The thing is, he doesn't know how.
Walked me through it a little bit. I didn't really know where to put my hand. They just said,
place the heel of your hand on the breastbone in the center of the chest.
And saved his grandmother's life.
He was gasping for air.
I don't think Andrew would be here today if it wasn't for the actions of Ashley.
Dispatcher walked me through CPR because I am not trained.
We watch all these 911 TV shows, and on the TV shows, they show 911 operators with cards or computer screens or something giving advice.
Ruth Lawson expected 911 dispatchers at the busiest airport in the nation could tell her how to save her husband's life.
He's fine.
He fell down?
No.
Oh, you say he's gone?
Yes.
Well, the paramedics isn't there.
Thomas Lawson was one of at least 38 people to die from cardiac events at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport since 2019.
Atlanta Airport 911.
With no CPR instructions from 911.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Bye-bye.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
The number is always the same, but calling 911 doesn't always take you to the same place. Making a life or death call from Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, you're likely to reach College Park 911. This is an emergency medical dispatch center, which means they can give you medical instructions, including CPR over the phone. But if you're calling from the airport, they're going to send you back to the airport's own 911 center. And calling 911 from Atlanta's airport, your call could be picked up by the main Atlanta 911 center downtown. Atlanta Police 911 transfer all medical calls to Grady EMS down the block. Grady sends ambulances, but also uses emergency medical dispatch, providing those life-saving pre-arrival instructions for all medical calls in the city of Atlanta, except those at the airport. Atlanta police transfer those calls back to Airport 911 because calling 911 from Atlanta's airport is always a round trip, and for medical calls, a dead end. Because 911 dispatchers here can't give medical instructions, including CPR, over the phone, and they won't transfer you to a center that could.
Airport 911 began researching emergency medical dispatch the day after we filed a records request for the number of employees trained in the life-saving technique.
No, we don't.
And 2 days after we aired our first investigation of Thomas Lawson's death, the airport got an estimate from the company that the city has since hired to train all airport 911 call takers as emergency medical dispatchers.
Is there a value in these pre-arrival instructions? Does it make a difference? Do they save lives?
absolutely. Absolutely, they do.
Michael Nix runs 911 for the state. He's the executive director of Georgia's Emergency Communications Authority.
Did you know that the airport didn't have a protocol for medical calls?
No, I did not know that.
Was it surprising to you when you found out the airport didn't have a protocol for medical calls?
It was. Knowing that they were a city department, I was unclear that they would follow anything other than what the City of Atlanta's 911 Center does for their transferring of EMD calls to Grady.
Internal emails obtained by the reveal show why the airport didn't have this vital training before our investigation. Airport 911 Director Gus Hudson wrote, EMD and TCPR are not required by the state of Georgia.
Shouldn't there be a protocol to handle medical calls, pre-arrival instructions in every 911 center?
I think in some way, yes, but leaving it up to the local jurisdiction to decide what works best for them.
Georgia requires 1,500 hours of training and 5 hours of continuing education every 2 years for a license to cut hair. To answer life and death calls,
okay, is anyone injured?
Dispatchers need just 40 hours of training. They can answer 911 calls for 6 full months before getting that certification, and 911 dispatchers never need to take another class for the rest of their lives.
The police budget has training built in because there's a mandatory 20-hour training requirement every year for every police officer in the state. But there's no continuing education requirement for 911 operators. And as a result, there isn't a lot of funding, particularly within police department-run 911 centers.
That's right. A lot of our municipal 911 centers that are operated by cities are under the police department, and then about a quarter of our 911 centers also fall under the Office of the Sheriff.
Right now, only 74 of Georgia's 154 primary 911 centers use TCPR or emergency medical dispatch, though Nick says that covers 80% of the state's population.
Is there a demand? Is there an interest for this kind of training throughout the state?
Yeah, of the 80 or so centers that don't provide emergency medical dispatch, we had almost half of those show some interest in providing a telephone CPR and emergency medical dispatch program. We've set aside over $1.5 million. Each primary 911 center will be able to receive up to $10,000, over 100 courses that they can choose from, including, like I said, telephone CPR, emergency medical dispatch.
A bill currently pending in the Georgia General Assembly would require all 911 centers to at least provide CPR instructions over the phone. For now, it's completely voluntary.
How can this not be mandatory? How can it not be required? How can it be optional?
I have no idea. Maybe it needs to go to a federal level so it goes everywhere and it doesn't discriminate by state, county, or city.